without
Yeah.
without an actual vehicle like spurt
Jetpack.
thing, jetpack thing,
Well, and why
and
wasn't he
just
at
launch
least?
himself.
Well, I want to know the technical spurts.
That's what it literally said. It literally says it on the back. It says
It's
property
the
of NASA.
spurt.
Spurt. Hey everybody, and welcome to Screen Riot. I'm Justin, one of your hosts, and alongside me are Eddie, Kyle, and John. And today we're taking a look at a 2015 movie called The Martian, which was the science fiction genre that Kyle landed on. So, Kyle, what do you think about this movie?
I absolutely love this movie. It ticks all my boxes with space and exploration of Mars and all that kind of stuff. And I've actually been kind of hooked on SpaceX's Starship stuff. So they're wanting to go to Mars. So, Mars has been in the news a lot. So I like it a lot. Matt Damon.
Come on, he
You
did
know, in this one,
Matt Damon.
yeah.
No,
in
no,
this one,
actually
he did a
pretty
really good job. Yeah, in this one, I mean, I think all the actors did a phenomenal job in this
I was
one.
trying to find who, we used to figure out who was actually in the running for the guy, the main lead.
who's gonna be casted before
I couldn't find anything. Yeah, I couldn't find anything, but I don't know of anybody that would actually be better at it.
Well, I mean, you have your go-tos. Like for a movie like this, it would be Tom Hanks or Matthew McConaughey.
Don't travel with Tom Hanks.
Well, I'm just saying, but I mean, he just did Interstellar. I mean, I think Tom Hanks was off the list because of the obvious, like, oh, it's Castaway in
That's what I was about to
space.
say.
Yeah,
exactly.
But on Mars instead of an island on Earth.
He just has a potato with he put eyes and a mouth
Well
on.
said. And it would have kind of had a face in it, and he would have looked at him and been like, nah, and then eaten the potato instead of keeping it as a friend. That's the obvious gag that they would have done.
We're gonna get through this, Seamus.
But I gotta say, I think Matt Damon and the crew did a good job. I think that most of NASA, except for Donald Glover, and the obviouses, I think they were super replaceable. Like the blonde girl they kept showing, I'm like, why is she special? Like, she's not doing anything. I don't understand why.
The one that's supposed to sit there and look pretty and say scientific stuff.
Yeah, she's cute, but I mean, I didn't see any real acting out of her. I mean, the obvious, like the older adults did it good. Like the Chiwetel Ejiofor, whose name I can never say.
I can't pronounce it either.
But
he was really good. Yeah,
fantastic actor. Yeah, he's fantastic. 12 Years a Slave, he was fucking amazing. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's plenty of things that guy's good at. I didn't like Jeff Daniels, but I just don't like Jeff Daniels.
Oh, I thought he did fine.
Nah.
He played the Jeff Daniels role, the administrator of X, right? Or the manager of X, or the CEO of X.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they could have come up with a better name, Teddy Sanders. Like, that's just a weak name for the head of NASA,
Yeah, but Jeff Daniels is kind of a weak person, so that makes sense.
Oh, ouch.
Sorry. Another person I hate.
I am, however, a little disappointed that Sean Bean did not die in this film.
Oh, it was so close too. They had so many opportunities.
It was fun. You're right, John, because when he sat down, I'm like, is that Sean Bean? Okay, that is Sean Bean. And I was like,
how are they going to kill him in this?
How's he going to die in this? And then he goes against Jeff Daniels' back. I'm like, oh, he was government suicided.
We're fighting the same war. Every time something goes wrong, the world forgets why we fly. I'm trying to keep us airborne. It's bigger than one person.
No, it's not.
When this is over, I'll expect your resignation.
Yeah, he's going to kill your ass is what he's going to do.
And your blood.
Well, I'm glad we never had the Sean Bean resignation scene, because it's left open-ended. I mean, we just assumed that it took place, sort of, but I'm glad that they didn't bother going back to that. Like, I'm like,
he's teaching golf.
Shit go. Just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, we did kind of see it, like John said. Yeah, we see a little clip of him teaching golf, which we didn't need to see that. You're right, I think.
No, we didn't.
Well, there's five.
That was during the credits.
That's true.
It was just like, that was just fluff.
It was like a "Where are they now" type thing.
Yeah. And it's like Michael Pena, his character. He's like, I'm going back to space. I like it out here.
Yeah.
Which is true with astronauts, just because, you've got a couple guys out there that are astronauts that had, a pretty good time, and they're like, Earth sucks. I want to go back up to space.
Well, and he was military. They said it in the film. He's military
Yeah.
too. So I mean, that's just like, hey, you're gonna go back. That's just how that's how it's gonna be.
Yeah. I will say this movie made me cry a couple times, and it made me laugh really hard. Like there were definitely times whenever I laughed, but that's I think where this movie it's sort of a pro and con thing for me, but I think they're really really good at building up tension and like really making you feel for this guy. But then at the same time, he's got this weird like Wile E. Coyote side that is it's a strange. I think they pull it off, but it's if you stop to think about it, it's a very strange juxtaposition.
So yeah, I blew myself up.
What the hell's happening here exactly? It was the same thing with whenever he gets whipped around in that chute. I'm like, well, that would kill just about anybody else, but you can't kill Wile E. Coyote, so he's good to go. It's just such a
and you always have a roll of duct tape no matter where you go.
Yeah,
and that is true. It's almost like a little tie-in for space in general. There's always a roll of duct tape sent to space. There was always one that was sent with all the shuttle missions. There's always one in the bag somewhere in space. Because you never know when you need some duct tape.
So what parts did you cry on?
Yeah, I was kind of curious.
Oh, dude, pretty much all the places you're supposed to cry if you have a heart, Justin. I understand why you would have to ask this.
I think I fell asleep.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I mean, like the scenes where, like, when he first hears his crew's voices.
About 2 minutes, Watney. How you doing down there?
I'm good. I'm anxious to get up to you. Thanks for coming back for me.
I was like, I totally get that. Like, this guy's been alone for 2 years. He's basically been talking to himself the whole time. He's held that shit together pretty well. But the first time he hears somebody else's voices, I think it's him realizing how much he missed human connection. He missed hearing people's voices, and it's just it just rips him apart. He just falls apart.
Yeah. I mean, you can thank Matt Damon, but also director Ridley Scott for that, because the way that Scott filmed those, he got all of the crew. He did all that stuff out of the way first, and then he did like 5 or 4 months or something of all of Matt Damon's stuff. And that was like one of the last scenes that they filmed, and they had all of the previous crew members pre-record their voiceovers stuff. So when all that's happening, that's the first and only take that they took of that.
Oh wow,
that scene. And they were playing the voiceovers of the crew back to him, and that's like his general reaction of not hearing these, his co-stars or whatever for 4, 5, 3 months, however long it was. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but I think that's about as method as Matt Damon gets, right? Like he's not gonna get much more method than oh, these are random voices and let me act. You know what I mean? But he did a good job. I mean, I thought it definitely broke my heart. I was like, well, shit, that's sad.
Yeah, the crew really actually surprised me. For a space movie, typically you have like 1 or 2 people that are just like, oh, I'm just gonna go out on my own. I'm going to do my own thing, or I'm an evil person and I'm going to sabotage everything that goes on here. This is actually like one of the first crews that I've seen that they all work together. They were all acting as a team, and that is a must in space, because you can't have one person just going, well, you guys are stupid and I'm just going to go over here.
Well, they had that in Jeff Daniels on Earth. Like that, I think they were able to have the crew be cohesive that way without like the villain dickhead crew member, because Jeff Daniels
was on Earth.
Role. Yeah, he was already playing that role for everybody on Earth.
You're right, yeah, because you have to have some kind of contention.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah. Well, and I really liked how this film could have been an hour longer, and they chose not to.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I like how it picks up. They're already on Mars. We didn't have this exposition of the launch and how the spaceship worked and getting to know the crew and all this stuff and yada yada.
Yeah,
we actually just pick up there, because because Scott could have very easily said, I need the getting to know you section and add 60 minutes to it. Yeah, I'm very glad he didn't do that.
They did it pretty smartly. They did it very well at the very beginning when they were out collecting, rocks or soil or whatever. and you've kind of picked up on the crew dynamics of
Right.
everything
Yep.
just within a
Just
mere
few
minute
minutes,
or two.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is cool. You kind of get the whole jive of everything.
So
of
let
what's
me
going on.
let me say this, and kind of in agreement with you, but sort of a disagreement is I think it's really interesting how they show us the characters of the different crew members.
Mm.
But I found it fucking confusing because he would just go to these boxes and he's like, "Oh, Johansson," and I'm like, "Who the fuck is Johansson?" Like I almost have to bring up a crew member list and be like, "Oh, it's Johansson, the guy," right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And he's like, unless he said commander, I had no clue who he was talking about. You know what I mean?
No, you're right,
Right.
Eddie. I actually had this. This is the first time I've seen this movie, and I actually had the same problem in that first meet greet setting thing too. Because they kept saying commander. I call me, sexist or whatever, but I thought he was talking about the guy that he was talking to, like Pena, because
okay.
he was in the capsule, like sitting there while everybody else was going around doing their thing.
I thought it was cool when he was like talking about, I guess, the commander, but he said commander and then he said her last name, whose name I can't suddenly remember. Whenever he's looking at like her record
Lewis?
collection, right?
Lewis. Yeah.
Lewis.
That's
So
right,
so
yeah.
he's like, "Oh, Lewis, your music tastes are horrible," but he would also refer to her as commander. So he did this like back and forth, which is totally believable. But I need more. I need more of a setup to know who it is that he's talking about. I just didn't know. So
Yeah.
there's times whenever he says Beck, and then there's times that he says Johansson.
Yeah.
There were two different times. But when he says Beck, I thought that was the girl. I was like, who the fuck's who's Beck? And then there was times that he was saying Johansson. It took me a while to figure out who the hell he was talking about. And even then, I obviously still don't understand it.
I don't know why they had to
None.
set off a bomb rather than just open the hatch.
More than likely, okay, I did think about that, John. More than likely, there's some kind of fail-safe. I bet you there's a fail-safe where they can't open it.
But
Kate Mara knows how to
but-
hack the whole mainframe.
Exactly. She hacked the mainframe
20
to
lines of
stop
code.
NASA from taking over the
Uh,
controls.
Yeah,
so-
I think I can block communication for a little bit. Yeah, that's no
Yeah,
problem.
you know what? You got another point. That's a good point. She could have just made the door open. Why blow it up? It seemed far more unsafe to blow the fucking ship up.
And that whole spacewalk scene outside, I'm like, dude, that would never happen. Like
no.
nobody
Why
would
isn't he
actually go out
tethered?
with it without
Yeah.
an actual vehicle like spurt
Jetpack.
thing, jetpack thing,
Well, and why wasn't he
and just
at
launch
least-
himself.
Well, I want to know the technical spurt.
That's what it literally
spurt.
says. It literally says it on the back. It says
It's a
property of
spurt,
NASA.
spurt. It's just like the Colbert, the treadmill is a Colbert.
That's right.
So
Listen.
I want a spurt.
And let me say this: the pack that the commander eventually goes out in, Kyle, I believe that you're saying, I could deal with that not being there, but at least a tether. Like, did watching Gravity not teach us anything? Like, you can't go out without a tether of some kind.
Every spacewalk you see today, they're always attaching. It's almost like they're rock climbing in a way.
Yeah,
They get to a spot, they latch on, so that way if they ever lose control, or they push off a little bit too much, they got a strap to protect them.
I heard the
Why
guys
don't I
from
have a
OSHA were
rope?
pissed that they weren't tethered. The guys from OSHA were pissed.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, it just seems like the first thing they would yell is like, "I wish I had roped off!" Like, just into
And
space.
then for just
no, it's
I would
space.
just-
They won't hear them.
I think
be
it
like-
was it was Beck that was outside. Oh, good job. It was Beck that was actually just climbing around like, it was just some sort of jungle gym. And you've got the moving the circle that spins, that generates gravity and everything. And he's like threading the needle between the big posts, I'm like, no.
This all seems bad.
That's all bad.
It's
Like,
all bad and wrong.
Don't just, shoot yourself through space.
Well, it's funny because a couple of extra shots and this movie gets made into a horror movie, right? Like, you add in one shot of him being cut in half, that bomb going off, and Commander Lewis being blown out into space.
Kate Mara's there on the glass going,
Yeah, I mean, it's a few shots away from being like a decent horror movie too. Even with Matt Damon, I mean, by the end when he's so thin because he's lost all that weight, I mean, it would be very simple to turn him into some kind of like Gollum-like creature that actually gets back onto the ship and then kills everyone on the ship. End of movie. And you're like, oh God, leave him on Mars.
I did find it as like, maybe did he run out of razors? Maybe.
I think he
Well,
ran
he
out
had
of
that
give a
electric
fuck.
razor.
Yeah,
at
no,
the
I think he just gave up on doing it. Like,
I
why
guess.
bother if nobody's around and I'm losing 90 pounds of weight?
Yeah, because I mean,
I think he just
he
gave
was
up.
like clean shaven throughout the whole film until like the day that he was going to be rescued.
Until he went full castaway. Yeah.
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 He's like, oh wait, maybe I should shave because I'm
I
going
mean,
back to
that was like
civilization.
at least like a month beard. That he
Yeah.
had.
Oh,
Yeah,
at
or
least.
more than that.
Well,
Yeah,
they
more than
jumped.
that, yeah.
I think they used it to show passage of time.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Because I mean, I'm really glad. Again, I do like the movie. I'm kind of giving it shit, but I do actually like the movie. But I do like that they get the supply ship, and then basically we see a jump to the 14 months it apparently takes them to get back, or 18 months, or however long it takes. We don't watch them make that trip. We just jump to, okay, they made it back.
Yeah.
Good job, guys. Like editing plus right there. I don't want to watch that entire trip back. We just watched the whole one when they came home. Again, this goes to John saying it could be 3 hours. That they could have shown us the whole fucking trip back, and him growing a beard day by day.
Slowly but surely, the hair gets longer and longer.
I mean,
I've run out of batteries.
Yeah, I mean, when they told him he had to tear apart the ship, he's just like, "What the fuck? Like, what are you talking?" Like, the whole time.
The first time I saw this, I was actually on the same page as Schwedel.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was on the same page as him, and I was actually almost verbatim saying, "It's like you can't take off the top. Like you can't wait. We're replacing this with a parachute."
Yeah.
They're like, no. That's not gonna work.
But his response, "You want to send me into space under a tent?"
Yeah.
Like are you serious
that's
right now?
That's not gonna work.
Look,
dude.
budget cuts. Budget
Yeah,
cuts,
right.
Mark. Budget cuts. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, you have to have the storm. You can't take it out.
Sure.
But Mars's atmosphere is 1% that of Earth's. So 100-mile-an-hour wind on Mars would have the force of 1 mile an hour.
Yep.
On Earth. So that storm would have never been able to happen.
Well,
in the first place. Second, they only saw this storm like 5 minutes before it decides to hit. It's like
they tried to explain that.
NASA
away.
would see that thing a couple of days ahead of time. It's like, hey, this thing could be coming toward you.
Yeah, they tried to explain it away a little bit through dialogue.
Storm warning. I saw that in this morning's briefing. We'll be inside before it hits.
Yeah, they upgraded their estimate. The storm's going to be a lot worse.
And I did like how they used the rockets on the ship to keep it, because I'm that's something that I think a person would do.
Yeah, that was the second
in the know.
That was the second generation of spurt.
It was a larger spurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a spurt
to keep you balanced.
I want to see your proposal. I want you to write a letter to NASA and be like, we want to put a brand on the spurts that you guys use. And we're wondering what the cost would be.
I think my favorite part, though, speaking of spurt, was when he went full Wally.
Yeah.
With his finger.
When he went Iron Man. Yeah, that would be impossible.
So you got the spurt finger thruster.
Kyle, this was your movie. Why don't you spurt us a score?
I loved it. It's actually going to be pretty high for me. I think it's going to be an 8.5 for me.
Oof.
Okay, an 8.5 for Kyle. John?
I'm in agreement with Kyle. It's an 8.5 for me as well.
Wow.
Okay. I think I'm actually going to be a little bit lower. I think I'm going to go a 7.
Yep.
Eddie.
Cool. I'm a little lower as well. I'm in the 6-8 category. I did get teared up and all that. I know, whatever, but honestly, the science stuff that we just talked about can't be ignored, gentlemen. I'm sorry, but that shit's way too
I mean, you have to.
Well,
you say
what did you say?
6.8.
6.8. Yes,
6.8. Yeah.
But I mean, the science that is wrong is very small compared to the science that's right.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
There was a lot of science that was right in this one. Like Gravity, no. Other space movies, no. But this one was pretty spot on.
Okay, so that means that The Martian from 2015 gets a screenwrite score of 7.7. For the Patreon members, we went ahead and spun, and we landed on sports film, and it unfortunately landed on me. So the movie I'm going to pick is a Paul Newman movie I haven't seen in a while. It's called Slapshot from 1977. It's a hockey movie, so I thought that was kind of timely for the whole Stanley Cup stuff that just ended. So check us out next Saturday where we will be reviewing Slapshot. Thanks, and see you later, everybody.